In this video, we're gonna install catless downpipes on this E90 BMW with an N54 engine, so let's get started. So I wanted to buy the VRSF downpipes, but they were out of stock when I was ordering all these parts, so I ended up going with ones I found on AliExpress. They were $140 shipped, so I figured, what the hell, I'll take a chance. But based on the charge pipe situation that I ran into, I might run into a similar situation with these where the fitment is gonna be difficult. So we're gonna find out, but you know what, it's only 140 bucks, whatever. It came with these gaskets, which I looked, the VRSF ones also came with these style of gaskets, but I happen to think these are crap, so don't use those. I ordered the OEM ones, okay? And then also these are the gaskets for the turbo side. Don't reuse the ones, your old ones, buy new ones. If you're asking the question whether the old ones can be reused, you don't have enough money to drive a BMW, in my opinion. Replace your stuff, man. You don't want to do this job twice. This thing came with bolts that are like Harbor Freight Chinesium level 4.8. That's really low. So screw those. I'm not going to use those. I dug through my collection and I found some 9.8 grade bolts, which is much better, along with some appropriate nuts, which are actually lock nuts. They pinch the end of these, so that's a lock nut. I'm going to use those. As always, I've got my car up on all 4 jack stands. That is the safest way to do it, and you want to do that on a level surface if at all possible. Safest way. So I already have the splash panel removed. It's just a bunch of 8mm fasteners, real easy to figure out, so you guys can figure that out. You don't need to see that. I have it removed because I just did the intercooler last week, so I just left it off because I knew I was going to do this. So this is the front of the car. That's the back of the car. You can see the catalytic converter right here. The downpipes are kind of accessible from this location back here, but they clamp onto the turbos sort of up through this location. And I've seen people remove the steering rack in order to get more access here, but I really don't like that because first of all, if you unbolt the steering rack at all, you are messing with your alignment and you're never going to be able to get it perfectly back where it was. So there's a possibility you could start to cause some wear on your tires. So if you do it that way, get an alignment. But I don't think I need to do that because I can just put my hand up through here and I can get at the bolt right here. So I'm actually not sure why people do that. At least I'm not sure yet. Maybe, I don't know. I can't exactly figure out why people have the need to do that. I can get my hand up in here. Maybe they just have bigger hands than me. I don't know. But I see the bolt pointing down right now. So I feel like I'm going to be able to get this. So I don't know. I don't know why they do that. Maybe their situation is, I don't know why. I don't know why. So here is a view up through that access hole. That was where I was sticking my hand earlier, where I can get my hand up. And you see how the clamp on the front one is, you know, right there. The bolt is pointing down. I will easily be able to get at that and unbolt it. Also, there's the air fuel sensor and the air fuel sensor there on the rear downpipe, and there's the clamp right there as well. That clamp I should be able to get to or get at from either through here or from the back. We'll see. I just want you to take note of the orientation of everything. You see how that clamp on the rear one is up there instead of down here, and you see that little actuator rod right there? That is the wastegate actuator. When you put this thing back in, you don't want that to be in the way. So take note of that. That's where you want it to be positioned. And we can see the air fuel sensors right there. It would be really lovely if I can slip a tool up in there to crack them loose while everything's still bolted up. A tool like this, oxygen sensor removal tool. And unfortunately, I just can't get the swing that I would want, that I need in order to crack those loose. It's always easier to do it like that and, you know, crack them loose if you can. But yeah, we're just gonna have to sort of take the things out of the car, take the downpipes down a little bit and kind of crack them loose when they're kind of hanging down. All right, again, front of the car, back of the car. To give ourselves a little more room to get these out, we're gonna remove this cross bracing. You probably, you know, maybe you can get away with not doing it, but why make it harder? So we're just gonna remove it. And to do that, you gotta remove this little cover here. There's some 8mm fasteners. Oh, and a 10mm, I forgot. All right, the bolts here are 16s. 6 in total. Now this next part, this might be the most difficult part for you. It just depends on what state you live in. If you're in the Rust Belt, these are going to be really, really rusted on and very difficult to remove. Tips on that would be to get a propane torch with MAP gas if you can, and heat these things up for like a long time. It's gonna be difficult to get them. You're not gonna be able to get them glowing red hot. And in order to do that, you need a torch, like an oxyacetylene torch. So if you have a friend with one of those, borrow it and heat these up. Don't cut it. Don't use the cutting torch part of it. Just heat them up, until you get them glowing red hot. Then you'll be able to get them off. So I would do that before you try to spin them off at all. You just make sure you heat them up for a really, really long time, because if they're not hot enough and you start to get them loose, you're going to strip them. So they're 12 millimeters. They should be 12s. Ooh, okay, not 12s. Yeah, 11 millimeters. Ooh, actually, I think these nuts are different. See, that's why I had grabbed a socket a second ago and used it on this one. It was a 12, and then I went to put it on this one. I was like, oh wait, that's wrong. So I'm not sure which one of these are the stock ones. Maybe the 12s. Okay, so we'll use the 12s on that. To our 11 here. Okay, while we're down here, we're going to disconnect these O2 sensors. So you remember that the sensor for this one is this connector over here. And the thing is, when you disconnect these, you might get a little confused as to which one's which, but then again, you might not, because this one is shorter. So that's how you know this connector is on this side. The longer one goes over to that side. So they at least make it a little easier on you, but just make sure you get these disconnected like that. And get them out of whatever brackets they're in. Now these things are bolted up right here. There's another bracket right here. So I'm gonna get this one right now, and I can't really get to the rear one until I get this whole downpipe out of the way. All right, so I think that's a 12. Looks like it is. That's why I don't like regular wrenches. Let's use a long one. Yeah, I like leverage, man. All right, guys, the most difficult part about this is filming it, not doing it. So I can get my hand in here. I can just get a wrench on that bolt in there, okay? And I can just get in there and loosen that bolt, So this just shows you that it's possible to do it with normal hand tools. Where are we? Right there, like that, okay? And you can just keep doing it like that. And just keep on getting it loose like that. So it's totally possible to do it with just a wrench and reach in there and get it done. Same for that one, just a regular wrench is your friend in this situation. But I'm going to use some ratcheting stuff if I can. Turns out it's a little easier just to use a normal ratcheting wrench. Bolt's already loose, so I don't need that long one anymore. And yeah, normal one's working just fine. Haha, so you do want to remove it all the way. It'll make it easier to pop it off, because that thing's tight on there and stuck. We're gonna have to knock it off with a little chisel or something. So for this one, I can actually sneak up with a long extension from here and get at it, just like that. So that's where I'm at. So much faster. So I need to reuse these, so I'm being careful, but I'm gonna reach up, try to pull this down. So I was able to pull the bottom part down like that. I think that top part is gonna be a little bit of a pain. So I'm gonna pull this bottom part down, and then on that top one, we're not gonna be able to see if either side can come. So on the top one, neither side wants to come, so I have to use a long screwdriver for that one. So what can I show you? There we go. I'm gonna slip this long screwdriver. You can use a pry bar or whatever. Try to pry those apart like that. Looks like I pried the top one in this case, and the bottom one just kind of needs to come. So it's obviously helpful if the bottom one comes loose and the top one, and you're knocking the top one loose with the tool. But in that case, I kind of reached up in there, did one of these, and pulled down on it, and it popped loose. And now this top one, maybe I can just push on it with my hand, get it loose. There we go. So I just kind of pushed it, got it loose, and now it's just super loose, dangling, nice and spread apart. And same goes for the one on the top. So those are basically loose now. So now we should be able to get these things out. In order to get some slack on the air fuel sensors, the pre-cat sensors, we have to get this engine cover off and unhook them. In order to get that off, we got to get the cowl out of the way. That's just a bunch of 8mm fasteners here, here, and then 4 more on each side. And then you remove these covers. There's 8mm bolts on either side. And then these are 5mm fasteners, and I'm just going to do all that. All right, so these are the connectors here. Just pop them out. We're gonna disconnect them. I think my snap is broken on that one. So this one is not. Just push this thing down, it'll unsnap. So the black one is the front sensor. It's also the front down here as well. So it's the front connector and the front sensor. And here's the gray one for the rear. We're just gonna unclip them out of these brackets here and just give ourselves a little bit of play so that these can dangle down. But I think I will not take them out any further because they're gonna stop. These connectors are big and they're gonna stop once they come back down to here to the rear hose for the, I forget the name of it right now, the rear hose back there. And yeah, so we'll leave it like that and we'll try to take the downpipes down. All right, I'm going to unbolt this bracket here. It's a 13mm on this side and then an E10 on this side. My days of hand ratcheting are over. This thing has a dead battery. So now you see the exhaust is super loose back here, so it should be somewhat easier to get this out because we have to go this way in order to get this out, but this needs to pivot a little bit, so this has to come out and down like that, and then I would be able to get this off the turbo like that and pivot down. Maybe we can pry. It is a little bendy. Yeah, it's interesting that turbo is kind of in the way of this coming forward off of that clamp. So I'm thinking the only way to do it is to kind of bend that clamp a little. It's just this clamp right up here. This guy is causing me problems. This guy here. So if I kind of get up there and bend it out of the way, then this thing can just come down like that. Hey, and now it's easy to get out. Okay. But our air fuel sensor is a little in the way. Ooh, and we're coming down a little bit. Maybe a little too much. So I might have to give my sensor more slack. Actually, what I need to do is unclip the sensor from the front of the valve cover here. That was my mistake. I'll show you that in a little bit. Yep. Oh, much better. Should have done that. I'll show you guys later. There we go. Now we're out. Now we're out. So now we've got our sensor that we just have to disconnect here. All right, my O2 sensor socket right there. And I wonder if my impact can do that, just to crack it loose. Is that a thing? It is a thing. Look at that. Pretty cool. Makes it easy, so you don't have to struggle. In this case, though, I think I would have been fine. Oh, did I mess it up? I messed it up. Don't do that. Okay, don't do that. I just messed things up, man. All right, that's how that goes. Now I have a good excuse to replace these sensors. Can't believe I did that on film. Yep. Yeah, so I had a blonde moment there with that idea, with that impact idea. Bad idea. Don't do that. So I'll be replacing this sensor for sure, but no big deal. What is that, a snail? Oh, there's a snail in here. Uh-oh, was this thing in a flood at some point? Doesn't drive like a flood car. Wow. Mr. Snail. Crazy. I wonder if the sensor's still good. Probably not. All right, now I can finish unbolting this bracket here. Looks like it doesn't have to come all the way. This one should be way easier to get out, hopefully. Bracket's kind of not loose enough. There we go. Okay, there's that one. There. That would be the right way to do it, by hand. I'm just trying not to twist up the sensor, the wires on the sensor too much. Cool. So now you see that I'm digging in here to pull this gasket out, going like that. So that's the old one. And just pull it out because we got new ones. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This right here is the little clip that you can unclip those those air fuel sensor wires from. So there's one clip there, and then there's another one a little bit further back. Unclip them from there, and then you got a lot more play in your wires. You see my wires are down there now. Earlier they were clipped up into here. So that's what I did, in case anybody's wondering. Yeah, don't be a dummy, don't cut corners, just do it by hand. Oh well, I'll buy a new one and swap it out and we'll keep going. Okay, yeah, got the new sensor there. So the gray one is the rear one, the rear front sensor, pre-cat sensor. So I'm gonna put some anti-seize on it, because hey, it's got to come off 2 years from now, which shouldn't be much of a problem. So yeah, I'm gonna put the sensor in the new pipe, and both sensors actually, because this one goes up, it's easier to get it in before you put it in. And yeah, and we'll put this thing back up in there. So guys, I've got the clamp on there, as you see, and then what I'm basically trying to do is fit this thing up into place, trying to get it aligned such that it kind of goes in to the flange and into the clamp at the same time, so that I can just sort of reach up and spread the clamp open a little bit more, hook it around both ends. It is difficult. I think maybe what I'm going to do is take the clamp out and try some dry fitting of these things together to kind of compress the gasket, because you can see the gasket's a little bit proud there. So I don't know how long it's going to take me to do all that, but that's what I'm going to attempt to do. All right, guys, I'm willing to admit it. It would be a lot easier to do this if the steering rack was out of the way. Because you just need to reach your hand up in there and move things around, and I need a lot more access than I'm getting here. So we have to do it, but it should be all right. So you want to unbolt your power steering line because you get more room to move it forward this way. I'm just gonna cut my zip tie. And we do need a wrench to counter hold the nut on top there. I'm not sure which one it is. Cannot tell by feel what size that is. So what I'm gonna do is make some alignment marks right here so that I can at least put it back where it was. There is, of course, the front and back reference like this, which I'm probably not gonna be able to get right on. So counter hold it with a 16mm wrench, and then it's an E12. This thing does not have enough oomph. Let's try this one. Much better. All right, so now we can move this forward. Oh, it's only slightly too, because the sway bar is in the way, which we could drop a little if we really wanted to. I could. No, okay, I'm mistaken. I gotta do it like that. All right. Perhaps you don't need to remove it at that line, actually. Okay, so now I can get much better access up in there. Okay, now much easier to get my hand up in here and do what I gotta do. So I actually have the other end of this this header downpipe, whatever we're calling it, bolted into the catback exhaust just to kind of help hold it up. You know, if I need to let go of it, it doesn't fall down out of place. So guys, I have been struggling with this for an hour trying to get the rear downpipe in, and it's just not working out. And I think it all has to do with this flange on the new ones. You can see how it's a lot thicker than it is on the old one. This old one, much thinner rim right here, and then it's sloped this way. This one is just, it's not sloped at all. Or, I mean, it's sort of sloped, but it's just way too thick right here. And this, you know, the old clamps are just really, they're not going on. And I feel like I would be able to get the front one onto the front because there's clearance all the way around, and I can sort of, you know, I can move this exactly where I need it and kind of get it on. But on the rear one, there's an engine mount beneath it, and there's just no room to do this. I can definitely tell that the way to do this is to kind of slip the thing in the orientation, in this kind of orientation, you know, where this is up, because you can see right here that down on the bottom, it's not actually going to really be grabbing. You know, it kind of goes off on the bottom. So you have that sort of room to slip it in on the bottom right there. How can I demonstrate? So, you know, if this thing is sort of up on the bottom, you can kind of get it in on the bottom and then slip it in this way. That's kind of what I'm trying to do when I slip it up in there. But the problem is that, you know, I just can't get this. I can't get around to the back of this to kind of, you know, I can spread it out a little bit and I can push this up in, but it's just impossible to sort of get this slipped on in quite the right way. What I think is happening is one side or the other is getting pinched in you know, beside there, and there's no room to get your hand in and pull it out or pull it out the other way. It's just so impossible, and I'm getting really tired. So I think what I'm gonna do is just give up and order the correct ones. VSRF is out of stock for a month, so I ordered the ARM Motorsports ones, and they appear to be in stock. Whatever, they'll get here, I will install them, it will be fine. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I'm defeated for now. Stupid thing. But hey, at least you know now what to look out for if you are going to buy aftermarket ones, or, you know, not the name brand ones. If you're going to buy something from eBay, take a look at the pictures, take a look at the flange, and make sure that it doesn't look like this. Make sure that it looks way more like this. So guys, believe it or not, I was actually able to get that thing in and on. Unfortunately, I had to take it back off again, but the way I made that work is I took this clamp and I opened it up a little bit, and then I hit it with a hammer in order to spread it out. And that's really what did it for me. That was a lot of the problem. That was the whole problem. So once I did that, it was actually a lot easier to get the clamp on and around. And I would definitely recommend you do that as well. I'm going to do that with this clamp. I actually have two different clamps here. One is a newer model than the other. They have different part numbers. I checked. One supersedes the other. So they're slightly different. It seems like this one maybe is a little bit bigger, but ultimately, you know, I would hammer both of them open a little bit, and it'll be a lot easier in order to get it in. Unfortunately, I had to take this thing back out again because the rear O2 sensor was pressing right up against the body of the vehicle, and there was no way to, I checked it again even without the clamp, there's no way to get the orientation quite right or just right to make it work. So yeah, fitment issues, of course, with the, you know, the eBay / AliExpress downpipes. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. This is turning out to be a common theme. It's really too bad too, because it looks good, but it's just not good. If he had welded the O2 bung in slightly a different orientation, it would have been just fine. That's the only problem with that one. Otherwise, it does actually made up to the catback exhaust. It's just the O2 bung's in the wrong spot. All right, guys, it has officially been 2 weeks since I started this project. Really embarrassing. I guess I should have attempted to install this pipe on day one. Then I would have known all the problems that I ran into, and I would have just ordered these, and we could have finished this last week, which was, you know, week one. Anyway, the problem with this one is that the tip of this sensor, when this pipe is installed in the car, this tip right here, well, right here actually, is coming into contact with the body itself, with the heat shielding on the body. It's pressing that heat shielding right into the body, and that's just, it's not good. It's not in the correct position, and it's not going to allow enough movement of the engine and the exhaust on the engine mounts and all that stuff, and it will damage the sensor. So the reason that's happening is because of where they decided to weld this bung. You can see where the hole is right here, and then you can see where the hole is on this one. This bung is a little bit further down like that. So, and it's also, that makes it tilt out this way. So this won't come into contact with the body. Instead, it'll be facing outward a little bit more, and that's the key. And then the flanges, of course, I think I already went over this last week, but that's the difference in the flanges. This one is thinner right here and a little bit more sloped. This one's thicker. I had to open up those clamps in order to get it to work. I was able to finally get it work, but it was a real pain in the ass. Better to have the correct flanges. So yeah, ARM Motorsports ones are significantly better built. You can see you can see where they welded this right here. It's sort of a harsh transition. This one is a smooth shaped transition there. So all in all, a lot better. Gonna get them installed in the car. They came with their bolts, and I've got the OEM gaskets, so I'll use those. So guys, this one went in right away, first try. It was actually really easy. You can see that this sensor is not pressing up against anything. Like I said, the last one was cocked this way, and it was pressing up against right here. So that was never gonna work. This one is also not in exactly the same position as the OEM one, at least I believe it isn't, because you see that this was meant to clip into right here, and it's a little bit too far away now, so that one is a little too far that way, but I really don't care. That should be fine. Sensor is not going anywhere, neither is the harness. Harness has heat shielding on it and everything, so it should be fine clipped into here. Maybe I will zip tie this wire up to this clip right here just to hold it in place. So that should be fine. Okay, switching angles here. Opening up that clamp made it really easy. In fact, maybe it was a detriment opening up that clamp a little bit, because the two ends are really squeezed close together, which I can only theorize might be because originally that clamp was a little bit more closed, and so it wouldn't, the outside edge of that clamp wouldn't have closed in on the outside edge of the whole flange as easily as it did. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how closed it was before I began everything, so it may mean nothing, but it certainly was a lot easier to install this thing. So I will see how the front one goes. We'll see if maybe I need to open that one up in order to get it installed. So we will see. But otherwise, everything went fine, and it went in like 30 seconds. So getting this one in and in position was also very easy. I found right now that this clamp that I moved out of the way is touching. So I should bend it back where it was originally. So it's just not touching anything. So I believe this is good. This is where it's supposed to go. The clamp was really easy to get on this one. It's also in the down position. So it's a lot easier to get it in place, and also there's no clamp in the way. There's no, I should say, engine mount in the way of you. So overall, the whole thing is a lot easier. If I recall correctly, I lost the bolt for that clamp somewhere up in here, I think. So I gotta look around for it and find it. So I was able to find my bolt and retrieve it, but it's not magnetic. So I'm glad I had one of these long things. It's a little jaws thingy. See that? Useful to have one of those in a pinch. So that worked out. It was just sitting up in this mount right here. So cool, we got that. I will put the bolt in, clamp it on. One thing I'm noticing that's, I don't know, worrying me slightly is that this downpipe is sitting sort of right on the engine mount. I don't know, that seems like that's gonna make some noise. I don't think it's exactly touching it or touching it very much, but it's pretty close, you know? So that might be an issue, and I don't really see a way for that to move very much because it's already, the back of this is already touching this pipe right here. So either I would tweak this downpipe a little bit, I guess open up the clamp and see if there's a way to tweak it a little bit, or I just leave it. So I will figure that out after I get the other one in, and we can kind of get this one positioned in such the right way. In fact, I think I probably will do that because they're not, the ends of these are not quite on the same plane right now. One is tweaked compared to the other. I think this one is. So I probably will unbolt it and move it a little bit and see if I can get it in just the right position. But that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm realizing, I'm remembering now, guys, that this one doesn't go here on this clamp. I think this one goes on that clamp, and this one actually goes up behind. There's another clamp up in the back where you can't see it. I had forgotten. Okay, I'm gonna continue on here. So yeah, that was supposed to get connected like that. And go there. And this one goes here. What I was doing was bolting up the exhaust with the gaskets and everything, not tightly, but just putting the bolts where they're supposed to go. I've got the clamps on the turbo sides like they're in place but loose, such that I can rotate the downpipes a little bit. That way I can just sort of make sure everything gets up into place where it's supposed to be. All right, guys, so I'm not super happy. I'm bolting this thing up. I was able to get the wrench in there, and I'm able to bolt that top one up, bolting the bottom one up just fine. You know, that sort of drew everything together, and I suppose it's fine, but it's not perfect. Right here, there is a bolt for the engine mount right there. That one is just barely touching the downpipe right here. I mean, it's not quite touching it, but it's like a millimeter away. It's possible that that is the bolt that gets replaced in that VRSF kit. I'm actually unsure now. So yeah, it could be that this is the one that gets replaced. In my case, it's like half a millimeter away from touching. Hopefully it doesn't scrape. If it does, I'm gonna have to redo this, pull this out, and get a new bolt for that with a shallower head, which is doable. Yeah, so it kind of seemed like this could have been tweaked downward a little bit. It seems like it might have had the movement if not for the two O2 sensors on the front, the air fuel sensors. They're basically crossing like this, and they're touching. They're crossing the streams, and there's no room for movement. You know, for this to tweak down, they would have to go like this. They would have to go past each other. So there's no choice. They are in this position and there's no more tweaking and there's no more movement. So hopefully everything is good. So I'm gonna get this final one torqued up. The rest of them are all tightened up. So yeah, we're not touching there. I cannot tell if we're touching here. I think we might be touching the heat shield right here on the engine mount. Oh well, kind of nothing we can do about that. It's not perfect. It's not what I would have wanted, but it is what it is. Let's get these clamps tightened up fully and we should be done. All right guys, here is a view of everything. You can see how they're crossing streams right there, so there's no more room to tweak them. I am able to get this in and tighten that clamp up and then tighten this one up too. Cool. So, I mean, this one's touching together completely. So, yeah, I think we're good. I'll just kind of reach a ratchet up in there and see if I can tighten the rear one up anymore. This one, I don't think we can. And then we'll reinstall the steering rack and yeah, we'll be good. All right, guys, I've got the steering rack back in place. This kind of is going to go up there. So it's not as big a deal as I thought it was. There's pretty much like no movement on this thing once you have these bolts up into place. I thought that there would be a lot more, but there's really no play at all. I guess they did a good job there. These holes are drilled precisely, so I guess I'm not as worried as I was. See, I mean, there's really no play side to side really, so I'm always cautious about steering racks though. All right, new zip tie for this guy. And finally, we just tighten these back up. Okay. Well, last but not least, we can get this brace put back in. So make sure that your sensors are plugged back in if you had unplugged them so that you can get more length on them. So yeah, gray one in the back, black one in the front, and make sure that your sensors, your harnesses are clipped into the little clip right there. And then again in the back as well. So I'm just gonna put the engine cover back on and the tray table thing back in, and we'll be done. So guys, on your first initial startup, you might see some smoke coming from the exhaust. That's normal. It just depends on how much oil you got on the exhaust. If your gloves are oily or your hands are oily or whatever, that's just gonna be the oil burning off. So if that happens, don't worry, it'll eventually go away. So a couple of things, guys. I've been driving around with the downpipes for about a week now, and the results are kind of interesting. Number one, there's some rattling, especially when it starts up. I really think that's the bolt on the engine mount. That's an M12 bolt that's 42 millimeters long. So it's a 12 millimeter bolt, 42 millimeters long. I can't find any information on what the thread pitch is. So it's difficult to order a replacement one. It's either 1.5 millimeter thread pitch or 1.75. So I ordered a 1.75. It's coming from China. Who knows when it's going to get here. So for now, it's rattling. I'll solve that problem later. As far as how it feels when you're driving around, I swear to God, it feels like, for number one, you know, it sounds a lot louder, which is, you know, I guess that's cool. But it definitely sounds, it feels like the turbos spool up a little faster, but it also feels like there's less torque on the bottom end, you know, at lower engine speeds. And it feels like it's a little faster at higher engine speeds, you know, on the high end. So it feels like I've lost torque and gained horsepower. That's kind of what it feels like. I guess that's good for some people. Some people are doing drag races all the time. It feels like these aftermarket parts are mainly meant for drag racing, which I guess some people are really, really into that. I am not. I would rather have, you know, modifications that make the car more fun to drive when you're just driving around town and stuff like that. That's kind of more what I'm looking for. So I don't know if ultimately I will keep these downpipes. It just felt like there was a little more torque, and the thing was just a little quicker when I was driving around town versus, you know, yeah, I don't normally like, you know, put the pedal all the way to the floor all the time when I'm out driving around. I just don't have the kinds of roads for that, you know, like I don't, it's just, you know, I live in a big city. It's just a little different for me. So some people, I get it. You're into that. Me, I'm into maybe something different. So I'm still undecided. Maybe I'll keep them. Maybe I won't. I don't know. Yeah, that's my impression, at least for right now. I think I'll keep them until I put the inlets on and see how those feel and what you know, those change and everything. But for now, that was it for the downpipes, and hopefully you got some information you were looking for. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm the 50s Kid. Thanks a lot for watching.